Thank you very much. I always blink a bit when they start announcing that they're gonna introduce me because I don't know what my spokesperson would have given them, what to interview. So we have an arrangement with her that I must not interfere with her work because she doesn't interfere with mine. And pardon me, I'm battling with sinuses. I have extreme sinuses, but I'm going to manage. Good evening, everyone. Let me acknowledge Program Director Quite Lively, Vice President Fundi. I wish I could learn how to do some of these things. It's quite beautiful how you run in the program. The President, Comrade Silv, yazi bangibhalele uthini lana bathi uSylvester mina ngikwazi umzamo, so angazi manje fanele ngibize lo Sylvester now. The Chief Executive Officer, Khululwa Ngutwa, board members who are present, business leaders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you very much for inviting me to join you this evening at this President's Fundraising and Networking Masquerade Ball tonight. I must say, I did Google. Actually, angithumela uMpumi mangiyibona ngithi no Mpumi yini masquerade. Athi let me Google. So she Googled and came back with a paragraph. What does it explain? So ngithi manje ngigqoka kanjani mask with my specs. Athi awuzoyibamba eceleni. It's like you'll just, I want to ask you, say, how do I wear it? And then she says, just hold it on the side to show that you've complied with the theme. So she's holding it to show that I've complied with the theme. Mzamo was saying, President was saying, thina abantu baseSoweto bathi so ngibambile ngesandla to show that no, we don't avoid complying with the theme. I must say, it's quite good to be in a room where a matter which I think I can say it's close to my heart and something that I've always fought for in all the portfolios that I'm at, the issue of transformation. Because transformation in our country remains a fundamental part of our economic drive. It is a serious indictment on all of us today, especially us who are leaders, that when we look at the existence of the South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners, which is the under-representation of black people in the commercial property industry, because you exist because there is a fight and there's a struggle that you are trying to wage. And because of that, we look at it and say it is an indictment on us that 29 years into our democracy, we are here. However, the occasion such as this fundraising ball also gives us an opportunity to pause and reflect on the reasons why the transformation of the commercial property sector has been slow. More importantly, we also get an opportunity to reflect on the question that says, what is more important? We also get an opportunity to reflect on the question that says, what is it that we have to do that needs to be done to accelerate transformation in our sector? Such a reflection is important in helping us to understand why we should continue to support this organization and all its programs. Without transformation, we'll not be able to create an inclusive economy which draws from the diverse energies and talents of South Africans of all races and cultural origin. The South Africa that is exclusive, whose income is distributed in a skewed manner that favors a few, will never be and produce a stable democracy. Simply put, an untransformed South Africa, it's a threat to our economy and our democracy. Our focus tonight is on the transformation of the property sector, which is a very critical element of our overall economy in terms of contribution to GDP and wealth generation. I always say, it's not something that we must feel nice to do. It's an obligation. It's something that we must do. It's a responsibility that we have, that we must ensure that the economy is inclusive. The kind of transformation I'm talking about extends to the property ownership and meaningful participation on sector value chains by the previously disadvantaged groups of our population. When we adopted the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, we were deliberate in emphasizing the reconstruction part. We didn't just want to say we are doing an economic recovery because of COVID-19. When I held discussions with DGs in the cluster, in the ISET cluster, economic cluster in government, because we sat long hours and I kept on insisting, what is different about what we're doing? There's been plans that government has done. When somebody listens to the president and speaking about this economic recovery, what will be that significant thing when we are talking about what has happened, the impact of COVID, where we've seen small businesses fade away, where we've seen people lose jobs, sectors being threatened. But more importantly, what does it mean to an ordinary man and women on the streets? And the key word around reconstruction came up. And it was that we needed to give hope, to say we will rebuild, but not rebuild to what we had previously, but we must rebuild to a different posture. And when we talk about transformation, sometimes people think we talk about displacing. It's not about just removing a white face with a black face. It's about ensuring that everybody can participate. It has to be meaningful in the manner that it makes all of us to feel that we are part of this country and we must protect its economy and everything that is with it. That's what the transformation we're talking about. Now, the efforts to resuscitate our economy, which was devastated by the pandemic, meant that we had to deal with the racial inequality in the ownership of the economy because we couldn't continue with what we were seeing as defining and in the features that we were looking at. And in line with the BBBE Act, we measure transformation in terms of ownership, management control, employment equity, preferential procurement, skills development, economic development, enterprise development, and socio-economic development. All these elements remain very critical in our pursuit of transformation. And we should not underplay one over the other. However, as part of your request, you've said to me I must focus today on the role of the skills development in transformation. But I must say, as I come to that area, that part of what we must be able to reflect upon, we've seen the BBBE Act being taken to court consistently. When I was in tourism, I was taken to court several times. Unfortunately, we won some, we lost some, and others were reflected upon after my departure in the portfolio. We've seen the Constitutional Court pronouncement on preferential procurement regulations, but I must say we remain committed as government to implementing transformation. We are reworking on all those acts to ensure that lessons learned are used to close the gap. The preferential procurement bill will definitely come back. We'll ensure that we transform all the BBBE Act elements that has been challenged previously. We are ensuring that we close the gap so that as government we remain on par and on course in terms of pursuit of transformation. I'm pleased to be part of this fundraising initiative that is aimed at raising funds for Property Academy. Looking at the achievements and what has been reflected, I was going through even the website, President, to check in terms of what has been done. I'm inclined to agree that the Academy is indeed a dynamic hub for skills and business development program, with programs such as the bursary program that you have, the enterprise and supply development program, property entrepreneurship program, and hundreds of university students pursuing property-related studies that have obtained degrees with your support can never be underestimated. You know, the impact of giving education to young people is important. And I can reflect this because, as I say, I've done, and as they were reflecting, I've done quite a lot of work around skills development. But one of the things that we were working on with Mampumzile Mlamboncuka was the war on poverty. And part of what we were doing there, we were saying, let's go to households and find change agents. When you give education to a child coming from a destitute family, you're making that child a change agent in the family. You are breaking a generational poverty. Because when that child succeeds, many of us can narrate, as we were saying, CEO, and as we were saying, Vice President, that we don't want to see our children where we were. Many of us inherited poverty. But because of education, we would have turned to the corner and became change agents in our families, where perhaps even in the household, the first property that was owned or a house that was built by yourself. And you removed your family from the list of social dependency from government. That's what you are doing, the intervention on skills. This is the intervention you must be able to reflect. For those who are supporting, that's why I want you to understand where your money is going and what it's doing to this nation and to the families. This initiative clearly demonstrates that you are active participants in building an inclusive economy and building a better South Africa. There is a quote I always love, and those of you who follow me on my social media would know that I always refer to it. That says, you've never lived until you have helped someone that can never repay you. This is what you are doing. Let me come to our part as Minister of Human Settlements and what we are doing. And thank you for the acknowledgement, President, on the work that we do. It's not easy. It takes a lot of hard work. But we hope as we're going to review our policies, we will ensure that the sector is positioned better. There's quite a lot of things that we announced that came to effect on the 1st, and I'm happy to hear that practitioners and property developers are actually happy. We realize that some of the quantums are not in terms of really helping and making businesses sustainable. And part of why we changed is that we don't want to see any more unfinished projects because they are not viable, they are no longer sustainable. So we are paying attention. There are quite a number of things that we'll bring in. My team wanted, for example, because they know I love technology, I'm a person that loves innovation, so they even included things like Wi-Fi. I said, but I do believe it's not undoable. These are things that when we have budget, when we have learned to spend better, we'll be able to do. Now, in terms of our work around skills development, which I do believe that we'll find a way of partnering and supporting each other so that we can make a meaningful contribution, not only to our sector, but broadly to society. You'll recall that the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority, which is PPRA, came into effect on the 1st of February 2022. The entity has replaced Estate Agency Affairs Board and has got an expanded mandate that covers property practitioners in the value chain. And the new legislation is meant to address the time it takes, for example, around fertility fund certificates, but also in terms of ensuring that people can be able to do business, because that's what it means. With respect to transformation, the legislation also elevated the transformational agenda through a dedicated chapter. I'm very pleased that the PPRA is anchored on an act that is very clear on issues of transformation. The act entails the following elements around transformation: capacitation and enterprise support for historically disadvantaged property practitioners, support of existing SMMEs owned by historically disadvantaged property practitioners, promotion of the standard of training and development of property practitioners from historically disadvantaged communities. Again, supporting existing historically disadvantaged property practitioners to become principal property practitioners and owners of business property practitioners. But again, in terms of property investment enterprise, facilitation of ownership and participation, enabling the transformation of the property ownership in South Africa by providing for support through the Transformation Fund to historically disadvantaged communities. And this will actually assist in terms of the business of developing residential properties in the affordable and secondary housing markets. And part of the issue that we are driving is to ensure that these are implemented fully. And this will mean that in relation to training, it's very clear that it emphasizes the importance of skills development in the property sector. We'll see more participation, but more support, because some of them don't survive. You put them in and you give them 1 year support and then they're out. So there is a dedicated fund, but also most of the programs that ensures that there's sustainability. Ours is a drive to bring new players into the broad spectrum of the property services, which include property development, property ownership, property letting, property management, facility management, property sales, property brokering, estate agents, property valuation, and asset management. The PPRA is expected with the fund, the Transformation Fund, to use it to empower all these previously disadvantaged property practitioners so that we can see this tilting of the scale in the sector. Another entity of human settlement in the portfolio is community schemes and on-board services. It has also adopted a transformational model, which consists of a transformational fund aimed at accelerating transformation of the management agent industry and increase economic opportunities for the emerging and historically disadvantaged managing agents. There have been collaborative efforts expressed through the signing of Memorandum of Understanding between CISOs and developed executive managing agents to provide incubation and commercial development opportunities for the emerging and historically disadvantaged managing agents. Coupled with the training and development initiatives by CISOs, we should see enhanced economic participation of the historically disadvantaged managing agents going forward, which in turn should contribute towards job creation and sustainability. Again, in terms of to bring about gender balance in our empowerment initiatives, one of our entities, the National Housing Builders Regulatory Council, provides training interventions for women in construction across all provinces. They've introduced a module on finances to capacitate women contractors on financial management, as this has been identified as a need by the trainees who were participating on our programs. In addition, the NHBRC has also set aside 40% allocation of its procurement budget for women-owned companies. We are emphasizing this, and I've been driving, I said to the team, would want to see this across the portfolio. It's because, especially for me, when we look pre-COVID-19, the face of poverty in this country was a black woman. Post-COVID, the face of poverty in this country remains that of a black woman. It's not going to be that automatically this black face changes from being the face of poverty, but to being in equal participation without deliberate and conscious drive of interventions. The NHBRC has also developed a social transformation and empowerment program, which focuses on the integration and provision of opportunities for women in construction. In this regard, the NHBRC has partnered with Gordon Institute of Business Sciences, GIBS, to drive this program. Annually, we're taking almost about 40 women into this program support them, and train them. They're coming out as successful business leaders, and also they've been giving us feedback even where there are gaps. We're hoping that we'll be able to expand more work around this area in terms of development for women. One of the issues that we have been affected by the Constitutional Court judgment, it's around our set-aside. We are one of the few portfolios that we are emphasizing on set-aside. We have taken a regress, but we've said we'll make sure that we do not take it forever, because what we want to do is to continue with a 40% set-aside in all procurement for women, 15% for young or youth, business-owned, 2% for the people with disabilities, and for military veterans. This is a conscious decision that we are taking as a portfolio, because it's important when we want to build an inclusive society, you pay attention to everyone. You'd have noted when we changed even in the specs of the houses, we went as far as remembering that the people with disabilities, living with disabilities, are not able to defend themselves. That's why their specs have changed. We now put even butler bars. So everybody that is in our society, those who are most vulnerable, we endeavor to protect them. We endeavor them to be able to believe and understand that, yes, they are part of this South Africa and they do matter. I believe that working together with the Department of Human Settlements and entities, your organization, Mr. President, can make a bigger impact in the transformation of the property sector. You as practitioners can provide us with better guidance on which areas we should unlock or refine in terms of our policies and in terms of implementation of our program, so that we can build an inclusive property sector and, by extension, an inclusive economy and inclusive society. With that, I'd like to thank you for inviting me here and looking forward to more years of partnership, looking forward to those that you support through this fund and initiative to being key players in our sector and in driving an economic development of our country. Thank you very much.